you got to get over some ego stuff here. The ego says, I'm right, you're wrong, and I'm not going to change my mind about that. And yeah, that's a choice. Welcome to Rowdy and Real with me, Sophie Shaw, therapist and slight loose cannon. Stick around for real talk, real growth, and some probable bad language. Let's dive in, shall we? Hi, love. It's a brand new week and a brand new episode. And today, I'm going to challenge you to get really honest with yourself. I mean, that's kind of what I do every week, isn't it, really? That's the theme, I think, of most of the work that I do, which is let's get real, acknowledge that something is happening, that you may be doing something or feeling something or thinking something. Let's get real and admit that without any judgment, acknowledge it, and then start dealing with it and healing it. And today, I want to talk about, I suppose, a little guilty secret that we all have, which is judgment. From A Course in Miracles, we get the daily affirmation, today I will judge nothing that occurs. And the point of that is to encourage us to release that habit of judgment, because it does become just something that we do pretty much without thinking about it. It becomes an unconscious thing. And if we can bring that into our conscious awareness and deliberately decide to not do that, then the idea is that we will find peace of mind and acceptance. But it's really tricky that. You know, we humans are judgy little things. It is a hard habit to break. What that means is that we tend to judge everything that occurs. We judge events, we judge other people, we judge what we see, we judge ourselves. And, you know, if you get stuck in that habit, as many of us do, I'm going to stick my hand up and say, absolutely, that's a habit of mine. You end up judging yourself as harshly, probably more so than other people. And in fact, I think you find that the people who are critical and judgmental of others, you know that they're giving themselves a really hard time inside. They are the worst critics of themselves. Now, a lot of this unconscious judgment is driven by just self-preservation. You know, we are animals and we are hardwired to judge what we witness and experience in life in order to keep us safe from unknown outcomes. It's survival driven, and because of that, it's negative by default. So, you know, I'm sitting in my cave a couple of thousand years ago thinking, you know, should I leave the cave just in case there's a predator outside? And a lot of that primitive thinking still remains with us in the modern day. So I might judge the weather, for example, because in bad weather, I might be liable to illness or injury. And that's not a conscious thought, of course. It's just, you know, I'm British and I like to complain about the weather, whether it's good or bad. But in my unconscious mind, and remember, the unconscious mind is far, far greater than the conscious mind, unconsciously, several calculations have happened in a split second. So I might be thinking to myself, you know, if there's rain, is it possible that I might get into an accident when I'm on the road? Or, you know, if I do have to drive somewhere, then the traffic's going to be awful. Other people will be driving like maniacs, as they always do in the bad weather. It'll be more dangerous. Or, you know, if it's good weather, if it's hot and sunny, am I going to get sunburn? Am I going to get overheated? Am I going to get dehydrated? Will I be too hot or too cold or uncomfortable or wet or at risk of discomfort or illness or injury in some way? And the subconscious mind is a supercomputer. So all of those negative scenarios have popped up into my mind in an instant. And they're all informed by all of my previous negative experiences with the weather. So my mind has learned that potentially there are negative consequences to either good or bad weather. And to keep me safe, it's stored that information in my subconscious mind, where I don't have to consciously think about it. I just look out the window and I think, "Bleh," or yay, depending on what I see. In other words, I judge. Now, obviously, not all judgment is alike, and not all of it is bad. A lot of it is common sense assessment of what's needed in any given situation. It's not possible, really, to navigate the world without having any judgment or discrimination. But this judgment I've just described, that's just about the weather. It's not particularly consequential. But what about the unconscious snap judgments that we make about other people? And what about all that judgment that we do about ourselves? So if I tell you that I'm sitting here recording this in my pajamas, you might judge me maybe a tiny bit, but probably not because, you're nice. And maybe you're listening in your pajamas and don't want to be judged yourself. But if I tell you that I'm sitting here recording this with my feet in a bucket of baked beans, admit it, you judge me just a little bit, and quite rightly. So when somebody behaves differently from the way that we would, we might be quick to judge, even unconsciously, even if we really don't mean to. We might judge them as being too loud, or maybe they vote wrongly. Maybe they believe something totally offensive. Maybe they're bad drivers. That's a big one. Maybe they're bad friends. Maybe they are just completely selfish assholes. Judgy-wudgy. And, we don't treat ourselves any better. We are just as judgmental, if not more so, to ourselves. So we're stupid, or we're fat, or we're lazy, or we're undisciplined, or we're weak-willed, or incapable, or too loud, or too quiet, or too short, or not good enough in some other way. I have heard the most abusive language come out of the mouths of clients when they're talking about themselves, not about other people. Some of the most kind, compassionate, mild-mannered people have said some of the most horrible things when they're describing themselves. If you've ever looked in the mirror and in your head rattled off a whole list of reasons why your reflection is, not good enough or falling short in some way, then you are judging yourself. And if you get kind of self-aware, I've even had clients judge themselves for judging themselves. There's no let up. And all of this judgment is based on our previous negative experiences with others and within our own minds. All of that learning has been stored as beliefs that stick with us. And the irony is, this is the really daft bit, is that those beliefs, whether they're helpful or not, they don't get judged. They just get blindly accepted. So, we accept, yeah, I'm stupid, or I'm fat, or that person is voting wrong, or, we just accept those without questioning them. And that type of judgment really hurts us and it hurts other people. And this is one of the central tenets of a therapeutic relationship, is that your therapist or your coach or counselor or whatever will hold you in a space of total non-judgment, because they recognize that that is a basic requirement in order to allow for healthy, healing discussion to take place. You can't do it if you're in fear of being judged. It will alter what you have to say about things in order to not be judged. So it makes you inauthentic and dishonest in a way. And it stops you from having happy relationships with other people or with yourself. It makes you bear a grudge. It keeps you isolated. It keeps you enraged. It makes you doubt yourself and second guess yourself, which, makes you miserable. So what's the alternative? How can we navigate this modern world where we do have to use discrimination without letting it tip into judgment? Well, let me give you some guidance. Quick pause. If you're enjoying this and you haven't already, hit subscribe or follow right now. That way you won't miss the next dose of real talk. Go on, do it now. Future you will thank you. So, as ever, the first thing is awareness. Awareness is so important. Awareness is freedom. Once you bring something from your subconscious mind into your conscious awareness, that often is enough. to take the edge off it, to stop it from happening. Once you catch yourself out, you can kind of go, okay, that's when I do it. That's how it looks. Right, okay. I've caught myself doing that. I'm going to not do that now. So awareness is really important. And your awareness here is that your judgments are hurting you. It's not just that, judging others is not a nice thing to do. It's hurting you too. It's keeping you apart from other people. And really what we want and love and crave is connection with other people, meaningful relationships. So it's time for a change. Now, the next bit is slightly less easy. It's the willingness to change. And that is a big hurdle because you got to get over some ego stuff here. And the ego says, I'm right, you're wrong. I'm right to judge. That is clearly awful, and I'm not going to change my mind about that. And yeah, that's a choice, and you will stay stuck where you are. So you have to come to this willing place, this open-minded, flexible place without judging yourself for having been judgmental in the first place. And how do you do that? Well, you can just say to yourself, listen, I don't know everything yet. I don't know all the information. There's something here for me to discover. So I'm just going to wait without deciding anything and see what happens. In other words, you suspend your judgment. You suspend any decision, whether something is good or bad, and you just kind of go, let's gather information. I'm acknowledging that I'm ignorant here. Let's gather information and then see. And this asks you to engage curiosity. Now, human curiosity is so powerful in allowing us to shift and change our perspective, and especially helpful in allowing us to ditch unhelpful fixed beliefs. When you get curious about something, suddenly there are endless possibilities. You're fascinated. You are non-judgmental. You study something as if examining it for the first time. And what happens when you examine something for the first time is that you don't have any biases or prejudices about the outcome. You are a blank piece of paper, just gathering interesting information. So, some helpful, curious questions that you might like to ask yourself. And you can do this in your head, or you can do this with pen and paper, or you can do this with a willing friend. That could be good and challenging. Ask yourself, why do I feel this way? What is actually going on here? And I'm asking you here to dig a little bit deeper than the surface. So your first answer might be, well, I'm pissed off because they were rude to me, or they forgot my birthday, or some other thing that is wrong with that person or something you did. But I'd like you to go one layer deeper. So ask yourself, why does that hurt? What have I made it mean? What story am I telling myself about what's happened here? Have I made it mean that they are a bad person and therefore I can't be friends with them or I can't be related to them? Or have I made it mean that I am a bad person? I mean, that is often right at the foundation of most self-judgment is fundamentally, I think I am wrong. I am a bad person. I am irredeemably flawed in some way. So dig right down to the bottom of what exactly is going on with why you feel that way. And then you can ask yourself, well, what does this remind me of? Does this remind me of something else that maybe happened earlier in my life, quite a bit earlier? When's the first time that I felt like this? And most likely you'll find that the first time that you felt like this, you were much, much younger. You were inexperienced in life. Your feelings will have been much more intense, probably, will have likely felt much more destabilizing, and will not have been tempered by life experience and wisdom. So then you get to ask yourself, is this really true? Is this absolutely, factually true? In other words, take it into a courtroom. Can it be proved without any doubt? And again, I really encourage you to try and put your ego to one side for this. Because most of the things that we emotionally judge as being true are not. They are just stories that we have told ourselves in order to justify how upset we feel. And so following on from that, if you can accept there's a possibility that something else might be happening or some other explanation is possible, you can then ask yourself, what might that be? What is the other possibility? What is another way that this could be explained? And engage your imagination. I know you are creative and imaginative enough to come up with a completely alternative explanation. And it doesn't mean that that explanation is right and yours is wrong. It's just asking you to be more flexible in your thinking here so that you get rid of your fixed and rigid beliefs. And then you can go one step even further and ask yourself, what is the best thing that could possibly happen as a result of all of this? And you can start to visualize positive outcomes. Imagine what it would be like if the thing you dreaded as being true was actually not true and it was all fine. That what if, that curious what if, is an automatic mind opener. It's magical in that it softens your fixed beliefs and it forces you to suspend your judgment and get positively creative. It asks you to imagine a different possibility, a more positive and a more helpful one. And as soon as you picture it, it starts to kind of fill itself out and come to fruition in your actual life. Now, of course, that's not going to happen every single time. Sometimes the things that we're looking at are just empirically bad. And if it turns out that the thing that you were judging as bad is actually pretty bad, then it's time to employ our old friend acceptance. And just as awareness is freedom, so is acceptance, especially when you choose to accept what you have previously judged as being unacceptable. Because when we make the decision to accept, we find that there is virtually nothing which is all bad. So you might, for example, choose to accept that a relationship is really over. It is definitely done, which then opens up the possibility to say, okay, I accept that. Now what? What will I do now? How will I move forward? You might accept that you've let some things go that were important to you. And once you can accept that without judgment and say, yep, that's me, I did that, shit happens, then you get to say, okay, so fair enough, today I will reconnect with at least one thing that I've let go. So can you see how this works? Can you see that so much possibility opens up when judgment is suspended? And instead of judgment, we replace it with curiosity and acceptance. It's a softer, more flexible, more compassionate mindset. And it's a much better way to get things done without angst, without judgment, and with more ease. So what do you think? Do you think that you could try it for a day? Do you think you could try it for 1 hour? I tell you what, don't decide. Don't say to yourself, no, I can't. Just ask yourself, what if I could? And see what happens. I believe in you. All right, my love, I'm sending you lots of love till next time and no judgment. Sure. Thanks for listening to Rowdy and Real with me, Sophie Shaw. If you'd like to stay in touch, then please visit norwichtherapy.co.uk and join the mailing list to receive a gorgeous free meditation straight into your inbox. And if you'd like to chat with me about your stuff, then please book yourself a free 30-minute call at sophieshaw.as.me/free call, and we'll start making a plan for your happiness. This podcast is intended for educational and vaguely entertaining purposes and is not a replacement for counselling, psychotherapy or coaching. Please take responsibility for your mental health and ask for the help you need. You're fabulous and you deserve to be happy. Bye.